we see so much on social media about misinformation or people being made to feel like they're less than because they chose a hospital birth or they ended up with a C-section or they chose a home birth. So let's give you the facts and then you decide what's best for you.
Hey there, fellow nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Present Illness, the podcast where two physicians try to make sense of a world that is febrile and falling apart and also underdiagnosed. I'm Arghavan Salles, the surgeon scientist and your friendly neighborhood doom scroller in residence.
And I'm Alyssa Burgart, an anesthesiologist and bioethicist who tracks news and health law like their EKGs, full of spikes and surprises. The Present Illness is where we dig into public health, politics, ethics, and culture with a scalpel in one hand and a meme in the other. As a note to our listeners, we often talk about tough topics that can be intense, and so if you need to take a break, we understand.
We want to give a big thank you to everyone who's listening, with some extra love to our subscribers and those who follow us on any of our platforms, and a special warm welcome today to anyone who is stumbling in from the Knicks game last night. I should say the Spurs were there too. The Knicks-Spurs game last night.
Were they though?
Well, they were in the first half, right?
This is true.
They were very there in the first. I was like, how many threes are y'all going to make? They had an excellent run in the first half. But Jen, do you want to summarize for folks who, they don't know you're here yet. We have a special guest today.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's probably most important is that you have stumbled in from the Knicks game in the presence of not only Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, board-certified OB-GYN, but as it turns out, major Knicks fan.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give people like a 2-sentence recap of the game from last night?
Okay. 2-sentence recap is the refs tried to rig the game the first 2 minutes. Horrible calls. Don't get me started. 4-letter words. Fourth quarter. OG Anunoby. He, like, so many babies should be named after him because it was an amazing end. And let's just say I am still unwell this morning. And so, yeah, I'm stumbling in as a, born and bred New Yorker, but on the West Coast now. I used to be in love with John Starks, and sorry, Arghavan, but I hated the Bulls. But that's okay.
I love the Bulls, so that's why she's apologizing. It's okay. We can get along now. It's been a good 25, almost over 25 years since that rivalry. So I think we can be friends. The amazing thing about OG Anunoby that you mentioned for folks who didn't watch it, so it's like very close to the end of the game. I forget how many seconds, 5 or 6 seconds on the inbound.
5.7.
5.7 seconds on the inbound. And this player we're talking about, is the one who does the inbound pass, and it goes to Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson takes a long three and misses. That's okay. In the meantime, no one's paying attention to OG, and he's like running from the sideline to get to the ball, and he tips it in, and that ends up being the basket that puts the Knicks up by 1, such that they have the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history, coming back from 29 points down to winning the game. And I do feel honestly a little bad for the Spurs.
I don't, but that's okay. Because I have a lot of thoughts about how this series has been going, but it is all good. We've got till Monday now to recoup and recover and get mentally right for the next longest 6-hour game it feels like ever. So we can do this. We can do it. So I'm glad to have the distraction stay with you, ladies. This will be great.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. It's such an honor to have you here.
We're so thrilled to have you here. We had no idea that Dr. Jen Lincoln was a Knicks fan when we invited her on, so we're all learning a lot together. Dr. Jennifer Lincoln is a board-certified OB-GYN whose passion is helping girls, women, and those assigned female at birth understand their bodies and feel empowered to advocate for themselves. She's also a lactation consultant, which I think is so cool, an author, a mom, and current president of the Society of OB-GYN Hospitalists. And her first book, Let's Talk About Down There, to her social media content. I mean, we're huge fans of the work. I became familiar with you online. And so it's been really cool to see the content that you're making. And you're trying to make it so that no question is too embarrassing and no topic is off limits. And we're even more excited that in March, you had a new book that came out.
I had a baby. A book baby.
It's a book baby.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you
and
so much.
Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. I have been on a lot of podcasts, but you all, hands down, have the best intro. Like, I just love it so much. with a scalpel in one hand and a meme in the other. It's so good. So good. Because that
All
is like our lives, right? It's
yeah,
so true. Yeah.
yeah. All
I
credit to
love it.
Alyssa for that. She wrote that.
I love it.
Um, all right. Well, I'm excited to talk about this book, which I devoured. It's called The Birth Book. I think that gives you a hint what it's about.
What it might be
But
about. Yep.
yeah,
Solid
basically,
title.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well
Woohoo.
done. Um, the book is organized in multiple different sections. You make it very easy for people to pick and choose. If they have a specific question about some aspect of their birthing journey, it's very easy from the table of contents or from the index to be able to get to where they need to go. But in general, you start out with who should your birthing team be? Are you going to have a midwife? Are you going to go to a birthing center? Like, where are you going to go? Who and where is the name of that section, I believe. And so it
Mhm.
goes through all the questions you should ask people about the capacity of a facility, whether it's a hospital or birthing center or whatever. What are the things they can do? What are the things they can't do? What do they offer? What do they not offer? Then you have a section on when it's time. How do you know, is it time to have this baby? Then you have a section on the actual having of the baby, the delivery, and then a section on complications. Oh, sorry. Actually, before the section on delivery, it's being an L&D. And then
Mhm.
you have the complications and then the delivery and then what happens after. And then importantly, a section on stillbirth, which of course, as you say, no one wants to have to read
Mhm.
that section, but you have it there for folks, which is amazing. I want to highlight just a couple things that I think folks might find really helpful. Again, just to give our listeners an understanding of what's in this book. So you have very early on, you have a list of things to ask about the hospital. So this is on, in case folks want to know, it's on page 14 in the book, or 15 actually, and starts with like, does my insurance cover this hospital?
Mhm.
Um, can you care for my baby if my baby's preterm? Do they have an anesthesiologist and an OR available and physically present 24/7? So these are the types of very practical questions that I think a lot of folks may not know to ask, which is what I think is so cool that you have it all in here for people. You don't have to have insider medical knowledge because Dr. Jen is giving it to you in this book. There's a section on how do I know when to go to the hospital? And then you have how to prevent tearing, which I think is something that a lot of pregnant people are concerned about, understandably so. And there's so much
Mhm.
talk about that on social media as well. But you have a section on what are the things people do? This is on page 201. What are the things that people have tried? What's the evidence for whether it works? And then, you have a nice summary of whether you think is worth trying or not trying, or what's the benefit of doing it. So things like it's perineal massage, perineal support, warm compresses, etc. And I think the most important thing, my personal take that you have in here is different communication tips for
Mhm.
how people can express their discomfort with someone on the care team or their discomfort with someone who's their own relative or friend or whatever who's in the room and they don't want that person there anymore, how to handle those situations. And you give people specific verbiage to use and you give them tips on who to talk to and how to say it. Or like one part, you're like, ask the nurse to help you get into the bathroom. And then you can tell her that you really don't
Mhm.
want your, brother-in-law or whoever it is to be there.
Yeah.
And then she'll take it from there. Um, and also if you don't feel listened to, importantly, right, by your care team. This is something that Alyssa
Mhm.
and I talk about a lot, and I know you talk about it obviously a lot in your content. Patients, we don't have the best reputation as physicians and healthcare workers because patients are frustrated because they're not always heard. So anyway, you
Mhm.
give people specific things that they can do if they don't feel heard. That's on page 139. Um, Anyway, so I just think it's amazing that you have put so much information in this one place for folks, really through all aspects of the birth. And it's with warmth and compassion. It's written inclusively. It's honest. And it's evidence based, which I love as a researcher.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'll stop fawning there. But those were my highlights of the book, and I'd love to just start by asking you why you wrote it.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you. You are now hired as my marketing person. So welcome to that job because you're awesome. But no, I wrote it because a book like this didn't exist. And there's a lot of pregnancy and birth books, and there's some really great ones out there, but there wasn't one that was written just like air quotes, just on the birth part which as you can see, it took up a whole book.
Mhm.
Um, and by somebody who does it every day. And, there are, I'm not saying you have to have your book written by an OB-GYN, but you see stuff online, you see misinformation, or you see other people who've written books who don't actually even practice any sort of medicine. So it's really hard because, like you said, there's evidence, and true evidence-based medicine is also incorporating the values of somebody and the clinical expertise. So much of my stuff, I give you the evidence on why something's good or what the study showed. And then I do have my little like Dr. Jen's thoughts in the columns
Mhm.
because I want you to be able to interpret like how strong is this evidence or what do I think? Not because I'm trying to get you to do what I think, but giving you that insider like into my brain, like what I'm thinking about. And I wanted a book truly centered on autonomy, which you highlighted, like, communication tools, because I'm an OB hospitalist. I practice in a hospital, but I'm not going to assume that you want that or you have the same values as me. So let me just give you the information. Again, with what we see so much on social media about misinformation or people being made to feel like they're less than because they chose a hospital birth or they ended up with a C-section or they chose a home birth. So let's give you the facts and then you decide what's best for you. And at the end of the day, no matter what you decide is your choice and you should be supported and you shouldn't need insider knowledge on how to get what you want and need because birth can be very traumatic. And one of the most traumatic ways I think it is we see people who are like, I didn't even know I could ask that question
Mhm.
or that shouldn't have happened to me. So yeah, and those checklists, all those things to ask. Again, I feel like they're like my little hot tips, insider tips. Like one of my favorite is if you don't know the OBG, you move to an area or you don't know an OBGYN or a midwife, call labor and delivery, talk to the nurses because you all
Mhm.
know the nurses know us and they see us. They're like, oh, this is if you want that, this is the person for you. If you don't
Mhm.
want that, don't. And so all of those checklists and questions, they're in the book, but they're also on my website and not behind a paywall because I do, people deserve to be able to access that stuff. So if you go to my website, you can get those for free too. But yes, they're also
Yeah,
in the
I
book.
love the resource page on your website. I
Thank
definitely
you.
perused it and just such a gift, especially for people who don't necessarily haven't found your book yet. They,
Mhm.
whatever. I thought that was really, and it wasn't hidden. Like there's a lot of books where they're like,
Yeah.
there's a resource page, but it's like an unlisted page. So I really
Mhm. Mhm.
appreciated that extra step.
Thank you. Yeah, and I wanted people to, specific things to talk about. So if you want intermittent fetal monitoring, cool. Are you going to go to your OB and they're like, oh, we don't do that. Well, on this website, you can print off the protocol that I reference and say, what about this? So being able to be your own advocate. You shouldn't have to, but this is the healthcare system we work in. So how do we help people while we're also working from the outside to make it better?
Yeah. The other thing I really loved about the organization of it and is the fact that everything is listed as a question, which is the way people do Google searches. And so I really felt,
Exactly. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
I
It's like,
looked at
okay,
it.
they're gonna go to TikTok. What would they type in? This.
Yes.
Mm.
And that was immediately something that I understood. And it made it so easy for me to scan it and be like,
Mhm.
oh, I know which chapter I'm going to find what I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was brilliant.
Thank
And so,
you.
again, just everything about this book it just says, hey, accessible. We want you to find the information. This is not hidden. This is not supposed to be
Mhm.
secret. And so you're really, I think, shining a light on that culture that as a pregnant person, you just sort of like wander into and you don't have any
Yeah.
idea what you're getting
Yeah.
into.
And they're like, "Don't worry, honey, it'll be okay. We don't wanna scare
Oh,
you, so we're not gonna tell you. No, we can handle it." I mean, we've been doing this for generations, but right now we're in a time where it used to be that births did happen at home and you were around and you saw it, you knew it. Now so many people, the first baby they see born is their own. So
Mhm.
how do you know what to expect?
Yeah,
well,
and I
and like I'm about to push a baby out of my vagina, but you're going to scare me by being honest with me. Like it makes no sense.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, we're tough.
I'm scared. There's
Yeah.
something weird that's going to happen.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I
you hear
know.
so much about it, right? As someone who has not birthed a baby, I'm the only one on this show today who has not. Um, you just hear about it all the time, and you see about it in
Mhm.
TV shows and so on. So there's definitely a lot of mythology
Yeah.
around the birthing experience that I'm sure impacts people's perspectives and that anxiety as they're going
Mhm.
into it. And you mentioned, I think, somewhere in the book about the more accurate and less accurate representations that we see
Mhm.
in the media and how that may not be super helpful to have some of these less accurate representations. I also love that you really, I don't know how this must have taken so much work, but you index like every section references other sections. Like, so if someone went to one specific
Uh-huh.
section because they were interested in that particular issue, but like fetal monitoring comes up, you say, oh, for more on that, go to this other section, and you give them the page number. Like, again, I think it's clear you put a lot of effort into making it easy for
Yeah.
people to find what they were looking for in a
Thank
very
you.
thoughtful way. So thank you for doing that.
No,
Um,
thank you.
I wanted to ask you, because as I was reading the book, I was thinking, as a physician, like, why is this stuff not told to patients when they're pregnant? Like,
Mhm.
why do we need this whole book when, like, in theory, when you become pregnant, when you go see your whatever provider you've chosen, like, you should be able to get this information, but it's not there. So I was curious if
Yeah.
you have a comment on what it says about our healthcare system.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, we're getting the results we're set up for. I mean, you might think on the one hand, well, you have so many visits with your doctor or midwife, you can talk about all this stuff. But when you actually think about the face-to-face time with your provider, it might be like 6 minutes. And I'm not even joking, like, you can time it, right? And you think about you get in the room and you do this urine sample, you do the blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. By the time your doctor comes in and you've got stuff to talk about, then there's all this other stuff. And I honestly think a lot of it just gets pushed to the wayside because so much of what people might have questions about, they're maybe afraid to ask, or it just doesn't feel as medicalized, right? Like, oh, you don't need to worry about what are the best positions to push in. Like, don't worry, we'll just help you. Like, trust us. And I am not here to say, like, yes, there are great, like, the hospital I work at, I think we do a fantastic job of, like, educating on the fly and practicing evidence-based medicine and supporting. And there are other places where it's very patriarchal and very much patients are just churned through. And
mhm,
so I think a lot of this stuff just it feels fluffy and it feels not important enough. Like, "Oh, you wanna talk about how to reduce tearing? Honey, you don't die from a tear. So let's talk just
mhm,
about preeclampsia because that's really important." And we're just not set up for success. And in a
mhm,
perfect world, you would have longer visits. I know they're
mhm,
doing some of these modeling with midwife-based groups, Centering Pregnancy, they're called, where they have hour-long visits as a group. So you're all talking and learning. But when you get a global fee, which is changing, but when you get hardly reimbursed for the care that you provide, you're told by your insurance companies in your hospital you have to churn through patients.
mhm,
There's just no time. And you put on this extra layer of, well, it's not that important, right? It's just everything's natural. You don't need to worry about it. We're just going to do it. It's going to be fine.
mhm,
Just listen to us. It's hard. It's really, and I just think there's a lot of misogyny that goes into it of like, you know, don't worry your pretty little head.
mhm, mhm.
There's
Mhm.
an OB talk I used to give years ago called like regular consent but with a uterus about, not
I love
not
it. Yeah. Yeah, oh my
not
god, can I have that talk?
yeah.
I wanna see it.
I mean, happy to
Oh,
share, but about
yeah.
there's so many things I see, not only as an anesthesiologist but as an ethics
Mhm.
consultant about like, listen, everybody's autonomy is not treated with the same respect.
No, no, and I mean, we can talk all day about how in different states and different laws, but it's embedded into the psyche of people who think that once you're pregnant, well, it's all about the fetus and the baby, and yes, of course, and also, like, I'm a human standing in front of you, and it just gets so messy, and you don't see this in cardiac care or hip
Mhm,
replacements or where there's these very strict protocols of what they do and what they have to tell you and outcomes. And for us, we're just not set up for that success. So, a book like this, I am hoping can level the playing field a little bit, but also as I was writing this book, I've said this before, like it also is for the OB-GYNs and the anesthesiologists and the midwives to be like, "Hey, we're not doing so great in some of these things." And I
mhm,
only realized it as I was researching stuff for this book. I'm like, "Why was I taught this way? Why?"
mhm,
So we have maybe not some of us directly, but our fields have caused some issues, but it means we can fix these issues. And so I hope
mhm.
that we rise to the level that our patients know we should be at and that we absolutely can be at.
Yeah. Well, as an anesthesiologist, I immediately went to the section on pain control and epidurals because I was just so
Mhm.
excited to see, what had been included. And it really took me back. I no longer practice OB anesthesia, but
Mhm.
when I was providing that care in my residency, I remember so I mean, usually it was the patient's partner who was like, "She doesn't need to talk to you." And I was like, "I'm just here to say hi in case
Yeah.
you have to meet me in a more like emergent way, which could be awful." So I was just
Right.
hoping to say hi and get to know you and you would get to know me. And but really having to teach myself how to sort of de-escalate some of those conversations
Mhm.
because there's so much understandable fear and resistance that like people are like, well, they're going to tell you you have to have an epidural. And I was like, I'm
Mhm.
going to go take a nap if you don't want an epidural, and that's fine. Like
Right, like, I'm actually great if you don't want it.
I'm I'm
Exactly.
not going to make anybody do
Yeah.
anything, actually.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
So yeah, I really appreciated the the question and answer information that you included there because I know that that's such a major point of anxiety
Yeah.
for patients and their families about like what do I want? How do I want to think
Mhm.
about it? And especially in this morass of um, you know, now we have social media, but before that it was like the mommy blogs and like all of these
Right.
things really whipping people into a frenzy about what is a
Yeah.
good birth and what is a decision that a good mom makes
Mhm.
and it's like it's really intense.
Yeah. No, there's just so much of this, like, values and identity put on you, how you're feeding your baby, how they came out. Did it really count as a natural birth? And I can't stand any of it because none of it is making us feel better about ourselves. And it's a lot of it is just based in this weird culture of like um perfectionism and this idea that like you're only good if you do this and in no other field are we like, well, if you got your tonsils out and you took well, I did an all natural tonsillectomy and I didn't take opioid. It's just so
Yeah.
again,
Well,
I think
it's
it's a lot of like just misogyny and that even we have internalized as women, and I hate it because it's so unnecessary, when you're already in a time that you no matter how it went, you're sleep deprived, your hormones are crazy, like, you don't need an extra layer of guilt from either yourself, your partner, the internet, it's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job again as someone who has not given birth. I thought you did an amazing job of being like, and this is also fine, and this is also fine,
Mhm.
and this is also fine, and
Yeah.
trying to normalize this idea that we shouldn't be shaming ourselves because of choices we have to make, especially in a few different places. I think you talked about like if you have a birthing plan and then it doesn't work out because
Mhm.
you had other medical issues that arose and things had to be done differently. That's okay. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything was failed. Like that doesn't, it's just that's fine.
Mhm.
That's part of it. And so I love
Yeah.
that you normalized for folks that there's no like one right way for everything to happen. And even though there's definitely these narratives out there that there is, like it has to be
Yeah.
like this, and if
Yeah.
it's not like this, then it's not really real.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really really helpful.
Thank you.
You did, as you mentioned, not really make firm recommendations in a lot of areas. You give people a lot of information, and then you give them the pros and cons, the risks and the benefits.
Mhm.
I wondered if you might highlight like 3 things that you really do recommend for
Mhm.
folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And so much of our, like, obstetric culture, I feel like, is a lot of, "But your baby could die," and then
Mhm,
your baby could die. Like, I feel like
mhm,
there's a lot of fear-based and coercive counseling, and I practice this way that I save that for when it could be true, not
mm,
because I'm trying to scare you into something I want, and I'm also very clear when I'm like, I don't love that decision end of the day, but, so I try to be very like
mm,
I try to be honest. And so the 3 things that I'm like, "Really?" But again, your choice, but um, declining penicillin if you are
mhm,
GBS positive because we know that universal screening and treating people with penicillin if they do carry that very normal bacteria. It used to be one of the number one reasons babies went to the NICU, and now they no longer do. So, super life saving, super cool. Love that. And very low risk. The second is the vitamin K injection after
yes.
birth. And
Yes.
I can
Thank you.
say
Thank you.
this
Thank
not
you.
not just as, I'm married to a pediatrician, but I wrote this book and I feel like it already needs a revision where I was like, well, you don't see babies having bleeds in their brains anymore because so many, we do have routine vitamin K for the majority of people. You only see that in other countries. And now we just saw that ProPublica article that came out that now this is happening more because more people are declining this injection, which is not a vaccine, but it's just sort of gotten mixed up in this group. And bleeding is really bad for babies, and
I'm
it's a
I have
really
been
safe
the
thing.
I have been the
Mm.
anesthesiologist for the
Oh.
emergency neurosurgery in the babies that did not get vitamin K, and I
Yeah, and
agree.
I can't
Vitamin K.
imagine. Yeah, and what I think breaks my heart is that the parents, and I know you can't talk to these situations and HIPAA and all that, but I can't imagine if this happens and then these parents are like, "Oh my god, I made this choice and I made it because TikTok or Facebook told me something and holy crap, I had no idea." Like, I don't think people oftentimes make choices trying to make bad choices. They're all trying
Yeah.
the best that they can, but they just don't know
Yeah.
where to get the information from, and we're in a world right now where there's a lot of mistrust, but I like, that breaks my heart. Um, and then the third thing would be, Pitocin after birth for the prevention of hemorrhage, and I've had people decline it, and they do fine, and I've had people decline it, and they don't do fine, but it's one of those where it's a very safe. We have a lot of data to show that it works. And people just sometimes come in with these ideas that all of these things are bad as a whole. And I talk about it. And again, I'm not trying to coerce anybody because at the end of the day, I'm sure you guys practice this, especially as you get more experienced. At the end of the day, I go home and I sleep in my own bed. And my kids and I used to, I think when I was in residency and first out, I was like, how could you do this? You take these things personally, you feel a lot of feelings. And I now feel that I can only counsel and know that I did a good job and document and then I go home. And so you're going to make the choice that's best for you, but I'm not going to sit here and forcibly inject something into you. But those
Mhm.
are those are the three where I'm like, let's just circle back one more time.
Mhm, mhm. And those, for folks who
Mhm.
read the book, those do come through as ones where you're like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
this is I really would caution against not
Yeah.
doing this
Yeah.
thing, and here's the reason why."
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things, in all three of those recommendations is that and especially in this ecosystem of misinformation and disinformation, there's a really strong naturalistic fallacy that people think like, well,
Mhm.
if it's natural, then it's good, and therefore if it's unnatural, then it's bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it is you can have a when we talk about vitamin K is that you can have an absolutely perfect baby, and all babies are born without enough vitamin K. They're a perfect child who is absolutely and naturally born with
Right.
low vitamin K because that's how all babies are born.
Mhm.
And
Right.
but it's tough because the fear mongering around and the shame based stuff around
Mhm. Mhm.
if you don't have if it's not natural then it's
Right.
bad, and it's like, well, arsenic's natural too, so there's a lot
Right.
of natural things that
Exactly.
could be
Yeah.
dangerous.
I
I mean,
went
the
to medical
bubonic
school
plague was
in
also natural, sorry. The bubonic
Yeah.
plague was also
No, I say I went to med school in New
So
Orleans and
natural.
hurricanes were natural and that didn't go well for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like I think and I get they're afraid to get kicked out of that club, of like, well, this is my identity now. It's become an
Yeah.
identity and to lose an identity. And so much of it is, and you guys know that like my husband we're in Portland, Oregon. The vaccine rates are not as high as they are in other parts of the country. He spends a good part of his day trying to communicate with people. And he's like, the data doesn't matter. You have to build trust. And when somebody
Mhm.
trusts you,
Yeah.
then they're going to use you as their source instead of the internet. And that can be really hard when you're, like me as a hospitalist or something else. But we just have to keep at it and not vilify people. Now, I will
Mhm.
vilify the people in power who should know better and
Mhm.
are,
Mhm.
manipulating and making money off of these things. Big wellness and all these people. But the average person, I do believe they're just trying to do their best, and it's hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, and how are
Mhm.
they to know, that this person who they've maybe followed for a long time on whatever platform
Mhm.
is leading them astray,
Right.
because they
Right.
they seem kind and they seem honest,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
probably in many cases are saying what they believe to be true. It's just that they don't have the scientific knowledge and
Mhm.
background to understand how
Mhm.
harmful their recommendations are. And
Right.
so it's hard for people to understand that just because
Mhm.
someone seems nice and thoughtful and reliable when they're not a scientist doesn't mean they actually understand the things that they're
Mhm.
talking about.
And they're
Yep.
accessible, right? Like, we all carry around these little pieces of glass, little glass computers in our
Mhm.
pockets, and you immediately have someone's face. They're well lit. They're leaning in.
Mhm.
All of
Mhm.
these things. They have a great podcast voice.
Yes.
And so you've
Yes.
got these. And then you scroll and it's like, you scroll, it's a doctor, you scroll, it's a wellness influencer, you scroll, it's an ad for pants, you scroll, it's a,
Mhm. Yep,
it's,
and they
it's a
sent a
cat.
message in to their doctor who can't get back to them
Mhm.
Correct.
in 6
Mhm.
days, or they do come in, they see us, somebody's frazzled, you have 4 minutes, it's sterile lighting, like,
Mhm.
I say this over we are set up to get the results we are. Like, do you wanna go into a sterile room or do you wanna go sit in a room for an hour and it's beautiful,
Mhm.
and they took 10 vials of blood so you feel heard because 'cause they're running
Mhm.
these tests as opposed to the other person who's like, "Well, I think it's just the natural way things go when you feel you've been traumatized or not heard by one system, you're gonna go to the other one." So we have to figure
Yeah.
out, like, how do we reach people? And then, by God, could we regulate some things better? That'd be great.
Yeah. And it's hard to be to present as trustworthy actors within those really significant
Mhm.
constraints.
Yeah.
And like you said, for folks who are running their faux, not medical, not regulated clinic, like they can charge thousands of dollars and like
Yep.
you can believe that your money's well spent because you got
Mhm.
that time, even if there's
Yeah.
not actually any safety or value added.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it's so I mean, it's one of the reasons why what you do online, Jen, is so important, and also that you're putting out things like this book, to help people have access to, I mean, like you said, insider knowledge. Like you really are sharing that insider knowledge with folks in a really easy to understand way, mind you. Like it's not all jargony and like what is,
Mhm.
you just
Yeah.
really break down the studies and you're like, studies suggest that this is not that helpful, or studies suggest that this might be helpful and it's not
Mhm.
going to be
Mhm.
harmful. So you could try it, like you're very
Yeah.
honest about what the data um, tell us, which I think is very helpful. Okay, I have a
Thanks.
random question. It's going to seem
Oh, I'm excited
very,
now.
it's,
I don't know where this is
it's
going. This is
oddly
I
exciting.
specific.
love it.
It's oddly specific. In the section where you're talking about the placenta
Mhm.
and you're talking about like what various things people might want to do with their placenta,
Mhm.
um, you talk about planting the placenta
Mhm.
and that you kind of wish you had done that. I wanted to
Yeah.
hear more about
Yeah.
why you kind of wish that.
Well, because 'cause I'm an East Coast girl, but I live on the West Coast now, so I gotta get a little crunchy, and I don't know, I just think it's so dang coo so the placenta's the coolest organ hands down, and I will go toe to toe to anybody who tries to disagree with me. It grows a human, and then your body's like, "Ding, we're done," and it comes out, and I talk in the book how I offer a placental tour because I love to show people their hard work, and most people are up for it, and then their video it's a whole thing, we have so much fun. The ones that turn it down, I'm like, really? Okay, fine. That's, whatever. But also, I don't want you to pass out. So it's cool. I don't know. And I just feel like in an era where, some people are turning to other things to do with their placenta, which I discuss, like
Mhm.
consuming it, which I don't love that idea. But again, whatever. I talk about the data and the potential harms. But I also feel like I can see why people want to have this like, you come into the hospital to have your birth and there's just not that like community or that aspect where we feel like we're still doing something that feels, I don't know, cultural. I don't know. I know it sounds woo woo, but I just love like this idea that you take it home, and a lot of people here in the Pacific Northwest do it, and they plant like a tree, and then you've got this tree that like when they
Mhm.
take the pictures with the kid next to the tree every year, and it's so cool. You just want to make sure you don't move. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what I think about it when you're like, oh, but
I
what if you ever
know. Yeah,
leave?
no, this is a 3 a.m. nursing station conversation. We're like, well, do you put it in a pot? Like, what do you do? I don't know. I was like, guys, I don't know, but I just think it's cool.
But I also think this is such a, and you alluded to this previously, this medicalization is obviously a major part of what's happened to birth, in the last 100
Mhm,
years. And I think we have lost a lot of the not only communal care, but we've also lost that kind of communal experience for people who want to have a birth in an environment in which
mhm,
the bad things that could happen could happen. Um, and so I really felt like you were alluding to that in that conversation about,
mhm,
there is something that we haven't quite figured out where, I'm also a little crunchy and like,
mhm,
how do we find that way to both get the high quality care that each of us deserves that is, centered around our goals and values, where we're in an environment where we're seen, heard, and valued by our clinicians. And how is it that we still acknowledge the fact that like it's pretty freaking amazing that our
mhm.
bodies like can make another person? I mean, this whole like the entire future of the human race depends on this activity. And so,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I think it's cool for us to have a little more wonder about it.
Mm.
Exact yeah, wonder and whimsy, and, now that I'm thinking about this more, Arghavan, like, I think what I really love about this whole placental thing, like, you have your baby, and then in this current world, like, your friends, people, like, send you some meals, they pop in, but we're very siloed, and it's
Mhm.
not this community anymore where, like, we live in these multi-generational homes or communities, so
Mhm.
it's to me, it's this idea, like and then a week after, like, you're out there in your backyard with your it's just this family care, which I feel like we're missing, and I have been in some of those rooms where there's the partner and the 2 girlfriends and the grand and it's beautiful, and you're like, "Why is this making me emotional when I'm, like, dead inside from the world?" And yet it's because it feels like we're doing this community thing and it's the birth of a
Mm.
family. It's not just a checkbox, she's pushing for 2 out, da, 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 move through
Mhm.
to postpartum. It's this idea that this whole family is changing.
Mm.
Which again, like sounds like woo woo and crunchy, but yes, medicalization of birth has saved lives when you look at the maternal mortality from like 1850 to now.
Mhm.
And it's also caused some harm when you think about how they used to, you know, um, anesthetize women and, like, tie them down, like, because they were given whatever gas. I should probably ask you, Alyssa, and, like, the twilight sleep and, like, how and everybody got forceps and an episiotomy. Like, we have to
Mhm.
find a way where we're doing the right things at the right moment for the right time, and not just out of fear and litigation and how we were taught, which is unfortunately, I think, how it is because of the system, not because people are bad.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's also another helpful thing that you talk about in the book is like, here's a practice that we used to do. Here's why we don't do that
Mhm.
anymore,
Mhm.
to give people that background. Um, well, thank you for explaining my answering my random question about the placenta. I was just so curious. I was like, oh, that's
I
interesting.
know.
Hmm,
When I
one
briefly went
idea.
to practice on the East Coast after residency, they thought I was like the crunchiest midwife, and I was like, "You all have no idea. You have no
Oh,
idea where I came from." And then I was like, "Okay, but we can be in the middle here, and it can be beautiful."
um, Speaking of, so I have another question about. Okay, this one's about doulas.
Mhm.
So again, you are very balanced in the book, representing or talking about like what a doula could do to help
Mhm.
and what they don't do. My interpretation, I want to just see if I was correct. My
Mhm.
interpretation, reading between the lines and all the various sections where you brought up doulas, is that you don't say this in the book, but that you're like pro doula. Is that accurate?
Oh god, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I
think they're
mean, literally
amazing.
the data supports that having continuous labor support by somebody who's trained decreases your C-section rate, decreases birth trauma, increases the chance that somebody will come to a postpartum visit. So, and I think I put this in the book, if it was a drug, we would give it to everybody.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did
Um,
say that.
yeah. And I think
Well, and
that
it's
doulas Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I really appreciated that because I mean I remember back when I was in the OB land and just the disdain that some folks would talk
Mhm.
about doulas, and
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know, it kind of seems like they're better than some of the partners that show up. I mean, I'm just
Yes.
saying they seem
Yes.
really like they're helpful.
Yeah, and I think what happens in those cases is everybody remembers the one doula who got in the way, who was like
Mhm.
was out of their scope of practice. And do those exist? Yes. And do the same kinds of doctors exist who talk down to but do we say all
Mhm.
doctors are bad? No. So
Mhm.
like I think that it just becomes it's a typically female, they don't have a degree, so they're very
Mhm.
easy to crap on and we blame them and we also associate them with a patient who doesn't just nod and smile and say yes. And
Mhm.
that seems to make our jobs harder, but as
Mhm.
I've done this more and I have worked with amazing doulas. Yeah, it makes my job so much easier. Like
Yeah.
we're all like, "Oh, thank God she has a doula," because it means that that's another person who can do this
Mhm.
support, who can help, who can ask questions. Um, yeah, and I think they're getting more normalized. I think we're
Mhm.
seeing more of that as opposed to even 15 years ago. But yeah, I think it's when people trash doulas, I'm like, "Oh, honey, let's just hold on. Let me show you the data."
Well, and one of the things that you just mentioned, right, is that the preference for a compliant patient. And I
Mhm.
think that it's such an important thing about how in medicine we oftentimes confuse compliance with autonomy,
Mhm.
and because that makes us feel good.
Yep.
And when you really are having that you know deeper autonomous consent conversation, when you're providing that education, you're able to
Mhm.
have that back and forth, it is definitely more work. And it doesn't mean that somebody just blindly does whatever you want.
Right, exactly. And do you know what it means too? They're going to be less likely to sue me because they're going to feel like we have a relationship
Mhm.
and they really understood why it happened, as opposed to somebody who's like, well, I was just forced into this C-section and it was horrible, so now I'm going to sue. And I say that not just flippantly, but I'm in, the second most sued specialty, and which general surgery is the first. I had no idea, but I was looking this up for a talk I gave a couple weeks ago to doulas to be like, "Hi, understand why sometimes we're crazy." And it was such a great talk, but this idea of like, wouldn't it be like, I love it when patients ask questions because I leave the room and I'm like, okay, when I had them sign the consent form, now I know they really understood it, which
Mhm.
means, yes, they're going to get better care and I'm practicing better medicine. And if something happens, they're going to feel like we were a team and they didn't feel like they were railroaded.
Yeah, and you come back to that idea throughout the book when you're talking about different things and you say like, "Hey, if someone's recommending this to you and you don't understand why, just ask." And you
Mhm,
do again give
mhm,
specific verbiage for like,
mhm.
"Oh, like I'm this is not what you said, but something like, "Oh, I can you help me understand why we're doing
Yeah.
that?" Or do we really need to do that? Or
Mhm,
is there
mhm,
another option?" Or, you
mhm.
give people the language with which they can inform themselves through their or at least
Yeah.
get that information that they need to understand what's happening, which I think is really, really powerful because as you said, so much of the time, medicine is patriarchal, and it's
Mhm.
just like, we're
Yeah,
doing
and
this
as
now.
women, we're like, "Oh, we're all brought up to, like, be polite and whatnot," and I see this over and over again, and I'm like, we ask more questions when we're figuring out what car to buy or what
Mhm.
outfit or details on our haircut. We feel more empowered to speak up there as opposed to when somebody's literally got their hand inside our body, and we're like, "Oh, well, they know best." You are allowed to ask questions, and I think we just forget that, so we need to tell people that so they can remember.
Yeah,
Well, I think we're
and
Mhm.
constantly rewarded by being compliant.
Mhm.
yes, by not
Mhm.
asking questions. Oh, so
Yeah.
pleasant. It's so
Yeah.
pleasant to interact with
Yes.
you because
Yeah.
you don't push
Yeah.
back on anything.
Mhm.
Thank
Mhm.
goodness
Yep.
I was brought up to be a feral sailor.
The nicest possible
Love
version of
that.
feral, I would say,
Love it. Love it.
based based on what I know about you. And I'm gonna correct myself. I should have said paternalistic, not patriarchal, although there's probably a little bit of both.
It's all yeah, they're all different branches on the same tree, so it's all good.
Yes. Okay, this is, I think, my last question that I had written down, which is well, it's not even a question, is that I wanted folks to know that even as a physician, though I'm obviously not an obstetrician, even as a physician, I definitely learned some medical things from this that I didn't know about. I just want to highlight three things. So one was
Mhm.
that there are so many different types of midwives. I had no idea. You have
Mhm.
a table early on that's got all these different classifications of
Yeah.
midwives and what the different training, certification, et cetera, is for each of the different groups, which
Mhm.
is so, so helpful because I can imagine if someone is interested in having a midwife be the person who helps them birth or is part of their team, if they were like me, they might not have known that there's all these differences. So super
Mhm.
helpful to have
Yeah.
that. Another was that I did not know, I mean, you can blame my medical school or me or whatever, but I didn't know that you could have preeclampsia postpartum.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like develop
Mhm.
postpartum, I mean, that
Yeah,
you
well,
didn't
you're
have it
not
during.
alone, like, it doesn't get enough play. I think we're getting better at it, but yeah, and that's, like, can be some of the most deadly, so I love that you learned that. Yay, tell a
Yeah,
friend.
because I mean, it's counterintuitive as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you associate it
Mhm.
obviously with the pregnancy
Right.
and the treatment is delivery. So once the
Right.
baby's been delivered, you would think that that wouldn't really happen anymore. So really important to know that that still
Mhm.
can happen postoperatively or postpartum, I should say. And then you
Mhm.
also give um, some guidelines for what to look out for and,
Mhm.
when to call and so on. So that
Yeah.
was great. Okay, the last one was I didn't know about this. I don't know if it's pronounced Jada, whatever the device is that
Yes!
you
Oh
put.
my god, it's so cool. Yes,
So this is a
yes.
device that goes for folks who don't know. It's a device that goes into the uterus to help with postpartum hemorrhage. And I had
Mhm.
a patient when I was in medical school that I will never forget who was having her ninth baby, and
Mhm.
she had uterine atony and just hemorrhage, 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 hemorrhage.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that would have
And do
been
you wanna
helpful."
know who invented that, Arghavan? Not a doctor, an engineer, of
Mm.
course, like because 'cause we're too busy providing the care, and it's literally just this little vacuum device. When you look at it, you're like, why haven't we done this yet? And it works really well. There's another device too called a Bakri balloon. And I should mention this, like I have illustrations in the book because I
Mhm.
think words are, or a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I wanted to keep them very simple so people could be like, oh, that's what is happening. I am not paid by Jada. I'm going to make that very clear, but God, I do love it. It's a great product.
Yeah, like, just sucks down the wall of it sounds like,
Uh-huh.
with the
Yeah.
vacuum, it sucks down the wall of the
Yeah.
uterus to help,
Mhm.
to stop that hemorrhage. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
so
So,
cool.
anyway, those are
It
3 things
saves a
I
lot
love.
of uteri, I shall say.
It's amazing because that's
Mhm.
obviously one of the as you mentioned multiple times, one of the main things that
Uh-huh,
is of concern is a
uh-huh.
postpartum hemorrhage, and it can be
Yeah,
definitely life-threatening.
yeah.
Um,
I'll tell you,
alright.
this book took me down memory lane. I was
I
very, very
bet it
fortunate.
did.
Woo! Woo! I mean, I was very, very fortunate that the births of both of my children were shockingly straightforward. I mean, having seen the terrible things that I'd
Mhm.
seen in
Right, as a
training,
physician, how did you get that? Like, God, lucky you.
I and I hated it. I hated being pregnant, and I still knew that my entire situation was as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
Very, very fortunate. And but yeah, I mean, so many of my core memories of training were things that I definitely had not thought of in a while. And
Mhm,
in reading this book, I was like, ooh,
mhm.
ooh, those memories came back.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
really important work that's happening in labor and delivery. And this the other thing that this made me think about that I hadn't thought about in a while is I remember when I was in training and I was still working in the OB area, friends would reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I'm going to like have a baby. I have no idea what it's like." And or friends coming in to deliver at the labor and delivery unit where I was working
Mhm,
and asking me to like be their anesthesia resident or asking
mhm.
me to come visit them. And how much insider knowledge we have simply from being aware of what that environment
Yes.
what it's like. Who are the people who
Yeah.
work here? Like what is happening? What is all this? What are these strips of paper? Why are these
Right,
things on me?
right.
And I remember being pregnant and people like passing down like but whatever what to expect while you're expecting or whatever
Mhm,
the other books were and being like wow this really doesn't get into the stuff that I now know about. And so I feel like your
mhm.
book really beautifully and again, I love, love, love. I cannot say enough about how much I love that it is written like what you would search for, whatever the search terms are
Yeah.
that you're looking for. So I just think this is going to be such a service to people who are heading into their birth and to their partners
Oh,
and
thank
people that
you.
support them. And I just think this is such a gift to the community of people who are going to find themselves in a labor and delivery unit
Mhm,
sometime soon.
mhm. Oh, thank you. I really that means so much to me. Thank you.
Well, Jen, we're so thrilled that you have been here to spend this time with us, and we are hoping that you will join us for one of our favorite segments, which is Take Two and Call Me in the Morning. And this is where
Oh.
we come up with something we can prescribe to our listeners, something that's bringing you joy in your life, something that you're finding interesting. And what might you prescribe to the
Okay.
people?
Yeah, well, this might okay, can I do 2 things?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The first is read books because I
Mm.
am when the world stresses me out, I'm a reader, I always have been, and then I get stressed out and I forget to read and I get really grumpy, and then
Mm.
I pick up a book again, and then I just get lost in another world, so, and maybe if you're not a reader, listen to audiobook just something that, like and I feel that books teach us so much about I love historical fiction, and I love to be like, "Okay,
Mm.
we all think we're living in the worst times, but let's talk about the 1400s. Like, holy crap, that was bad." Like, you talked about the plague, like, people
Mhm.
couldn't wash their underwear. That was bad. Um, so
Anything you're reading now that you're really
I
into
am yeah, well, it's kinda
or
yeah, I am reading,
recently?
what is it? Roar of Thunder Roll of Thunder, Hear Me Roar.
Oh.
It was written in the 1970s. It's about 1930s life in Mississippi with people who were previously enslaved. And it's not a feel good book, but I'm reading it and I'm like, this book needs to be read by everyone right now.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I have like 2 more chapters and I've been saving them because I just need to
Oh.
I need something. The other thing is to be a sports fan and root for a good team like the Knicks, but to like bring your kids into it because I am having so much fun now, not just watching the Knicks and also breaking out a full body rash because of them, but to see like my kids and like this is gonna, like, the 90s were like my moment. Now they're, as kids, they're gonna be like, oh my God, remember in 2026 when we were there and mom was screaming and the neighbors were like, are you okay? And we're like, we're fine. These core memories, it's just so fun to like go down rabbit holes with your kids. So sports, but pick a good team because I'm also a Jets fan and that's a different journey for another day. So
Well, even as a Knicks fan, it's been a
it's been real hard. Okay. It's been, yeah. But you know what? It's just, I mean, the whole Mamdani and the city, like, it's just so good right now.
Yes. The vibes are so good right now for
Are
New York
so
City.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I prescribe that, but also with a beta blocker because it's also really stressful. It's really stressful.
It is stressful, but in a good way. It's
For folks who are not aware, a beta blocker will slow down your heart. So if it is racing, a beta blocker can be your friend.
Could use that. Could use it. Oh my God, yes.
What about you, Arghavan? What's your joy this week?
Okay, I have discovered, as though like I'm the only one, I have come across a new creator who I did not know before. Their username is Marcus Tudrick, and they are one of the more creative people I've come across on social media. So I think the first videos I saw, they were talking about letters, like they were the letter A. At one point, I think they were the letter D, and they were like, "Why is it ABC? Why isn't ABCD?"
Yes.
When people say the ABCs, why did I get left out?
Yeah.
And so
I love accounts like that are just so ridiculous, and you're like, of course. Why wouldn't you make a whole series about letters?
They're random things. So one of the ones, I'm just going to list a couple of the videos that I've come across that I think are amusing. One is they've got like some accoutrement on their face that make them look sort of vaguely chicken-ish. And it's the question is, why did the chicken cross the road? And they're trying to explain why the chicken crossed the road without saying it because their manager says they're not allowed to say it. Their manager's sitting off screen. And so he's like trying to give some hints about why the chicken crossed the road. There is one with the letter Q, going back to the letter idea. And the word queue, like to stand in line, Queue. And this creator is like, well, when they pitched this project to me, I didn't know that there were going to be 2 U's and 2 E's and only 1 Q. But the whole word is Q.
Yeah.
I'm Q. Why do they get double billing? Anyway, so I'll put a link to this person's account in our show notes. Actually, sorry, one more is they're talking about they're a snake, okay, and they're talking to someone who, or they're in front of someone who supposedly is playing the flute, and they're like, "No, but I was going to bite you. Wait, why are you playing that song? Wait, oh, I like this song. But wait, I wanted to bite you." Anyway, it's like
down to the basket. Yeah.
Oh
my God, I love it.
Snake to the flute music. Anyway, just joyful.
That's what we need. We need that
Yes.
in like puppies and babies on social media. Give me a golden retriever all day long.
Absolutely. Oh, golden retrievers. There's so many good golden retriever videos too. Anyway, Alyssa,
Well, to
how about
contribute to the internet, this one wanted some attention.
Oh, hello.
This is, I know, who's simultaneously like squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. But
She's off.
I love it.
that was Alyssa's dog, by the way, for folks who are listening and not watching.
Like, what just happened?
Sierra just made a very brief appearance. Insisted on attention and then left immediately.
Well, she got what she was looking for. But how about you, Alyssa? What do you prescribe for folks?
I love an art project that is like that you can watch emerge like on a video. I love when people do an art project and they like document how they're making it or they document whatever. And so I saw this person, their account's called Paper Pepper, and it was restoring Van Gogh's ear and mending his broken arm. And it started off, what caught me is it has like Van Gogh's beard. All you see is like the image of Van Gogh and then the hands of the artist. And they come in and they literally trim the beard. Like they have a layer of paper that's been painted to look like it. And when they give him a beard trim, like he looks, more put together.
I've seen this. I just
You've
saw
seen
this.
this.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
and then I was so curious about it. And it all looks kind of like it's one piece of paper. But then the longer it goes on, you see there's like, it's so complicated. There's all these pieces.
Yeah.
And yes, it's like fixing his, they're like fixing his hair and they're fixing his ear. And also throughout it, it felt like, Van Gogh died by suicide. And the whole thing is also like, how would you mend Van Gogh's broken heart? And it's like, there's a point when they like open up this little thing in his shirt and they take out like his sadness and depression and they put in like love. And it was real feel good. I won't lie. And we will put a link to it in the show notes. And it was simultaneously like very, it felt very affirming of like anybody who's been through something really hard. And it was beautiful and creative. And I loved it.
I agree. I saw that one as well. And then I watched a couple other ones from that person, but it was a tired mom and like rejuvenating this tired mom and giving her spa treatments and so on. So yeah, that's a very creative account as well.
Amazing. Well, listen, those were all great recommendations. Jennifer, we are so thrilled that you came. We're so lucky that you accepted our invitation and came here today. For folks who are listening, please pick up a copy of the birth book. It's amazing. There's all these free resources like we mentioned on Jen's website. You can follow her at Dr. Jennifer Lincoln on TikTok and Instagram. We're so lucky that you were here today.
Oh, no. Thanks for having me. This was so fun. Just like we're just chatting and hanging out and talking about placentas and puppies. Perfect. That's the next book. Yeah.
It's very on brand for us. Placentas and puppies. It's perfect. All right. Well, I think that's it for this week's episode. If you didn't like what you heard, this has been the Dan Bongino Show. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to The Present Illness, leave us a review, and tell your friends and anybody on the street. Why not?
We know that if you've listened this far, you have far better taste than to listen to podcasts like that. So make sure that you follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at The Present Illness, and you can stay on top of all of our TPI-related news.
We will be back once again next week with more headlines, hot takes, and doom scrolling, hopefully wrapped in some laughs.
Until then, agitate, hydrate, and take a nap. We'll see you next time on The Present Illness. Production by Arghavan, Salles, and Alyssa Burgart. Editing by Alyssa Burgart. Social media by Arghavan, Salles. Original music by Joseph Uphoff. Don't take medical advice from random people on a podcast. This show's for informational purposes. It's meant to be fun, and it's certainly not medical advice from ourselves or our guest. So please make sure that you take your medical questions to a qualified professional. This podcast is our hobby. It doesn't represent the opinion of our employers, just ourselves.